What is up, everybody? I am so sorry for the late delay. I wanted to have this out months ago, but unfortunately, since part 1, this has been quite a roller coaster in my IRL life. I'd go into details right now, but I'm saving that for another video, so no chit-chatting. Let's get right on with the first question. Alright, so our first question from Super Sharky Brothers: least favorite Theodore Tugboat episode? Well, the thing is, I don't have just one. There are quite a few least favorites I have listed. But I'll put it to you this way. I'm in the process of editing another project which talks about my least favorite picks. Not exactly sure when I will have it out, but hopefully I can upload it very soon. And their next question: best Family Guy character? I believe that goes to Stewie. He's probably the most tolerable compared to everyone else. 'Cause let's face it, Peter's the most toxic out of the bunch, Lois is a Karen, Meg is a whiny little self-centered bitch, Chris is far behind more than stupid than before, Brian, I have noticed, has become more of a dick as the series progresses. So yeah, pretty much all the other characters aren't as funny as they used to be, and most have become pretty toxic apart from Stewie. So yeah, Stewie is definitely the best Family Guy character. And their last question: do you like the Owl House or Amphibia? I know of these two shows, but I unfortunately have not watched either one since I really wasn't too interested in checking these out. So I really can't tell you. Sorry. Alright, our next question is from John's Jovial Pictures: favorite Nicktoons as of now? Well, I don't watch a lot of Nicktoons anymore, and I'm barely watching the ones that I still like. The only cartoons that I still have an interest in are either My Life as a Teenage Robot or Danny Phantom. I'm starting to phase out of the more classic ones like SpongeBob, unfortunately, because I hate the new series. Fairly Odd Parents I'm kind of done with. I don't care for Jimmy Neutron anymore. So that should kind of give you an idea, really. Some Nicktoons just don't interest me anymore. And their next question: what is your biggest guilty pleasure in terms of media? Well, I'd say out of all the media I collect, I think the biggest guilty pleasure would probably be the Teletubbies. Now, let me be clear on this. Like MLP, I can't watch this as frequently as I want. One, because I'm far too busy with so many other things going on in my life. And two, my dad. Now, why is that? Well, between you and me, basically if my dad caught either me or my brother watching it, he'd basically shut down the entire internet in our house. Little extreme, don't you think? Because I think so. So whenever he's around, I can't really watch it. Which is fine, because I don't really have the time to do so, being so focused on life and whatnot. If any of you out there just so happen to be fans of this show, my thing is, as long as it's not hurting you or anyone else, like I always say, have fun with your bad self. If it's what makes you tick, it's what makes you tick. But yeah, I definitely think that's a big guilty pleasure of mine. And their last question: thoughts on the Thomas & Friends Wooden Railway 2022 range? It's not a bad range, actually. I've seen worse looking wooden railways, but the 2022 range is a step in the right direction, I think. One of my friends actually got me the 2022 Henry for my birthday, and I really like it. I want to collect some more from that particular range, but I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. But hopefully one day I'll start collecting those. And our next question from Lincoln01 the Tank Engine: favorite Bob the Builder episodes? Hate to break it to you all, but I'm not a fan of Bob the Builder anymore. I used to watch it when I was younger, but that's a show that I just simply grew out of. It just became one of those shows that I simply could not stand to even listen to anymore, let alone get back into. I won't bash anybody if any of you out there like it, but that's just not my cup of tea anymore. Next question, Michael Jackson or Queen? Oh, I like both of them, to be honest. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'd definitely pick Michael Jackson. Now, I still like Queen and all, but there's something about Michael's music that just sticks with you a lot more. He's got a lot of bops, for one, and ones that really hit you in the heart. So, yeah, out of the two, that's why I ultimately choose him. And their next question, have you seen the behind the scenes of Season 5? Yes, I have. Both 5 and 6. And let me tell you, a lot of that stuff is pretty interesting. Particularly the footage from 5, because I couldn't believe how many takes they had to do for certain scenes, especially with those crashes. It really gives you a much better appreciation of what went into making these seasons. Some really, really interesting stuff. Okay, here's our first question from Spidey Fan Productions 2003. What tugboat show do you like more? Tugs or Theodore Tugboat?
Seriously? Seriously.
Is that really a question you're asking me? Meanwhile, I talk about it all the time? Anyone who knows me right away knows that I'm gonna choose this. Say it with me now, folks. Theodore. Okay, their next question. Which MLP character is your favorite and why? Out of Twilight Sparkle, Applejack, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash, or Rarity? Out of the main 6, my favorite is definitely Twilight Sparkle. As basic as that may sound, she always stood out to me. You know, she's hardworking, very well organized, she knows how to stand up and defend herself, and most importantly, she knows how to be a true leader and friend. And in a way, I see a little of myself in Twilight, and I do try to live by her characteristics in my own life. I do like the other 5, but Twilight is the one that I just love just a little bit more. And their next question, what are your thoughts on Thomas and Friends All Engines Go? Oh, I was just waiting for somebody to bring this up. Well, I can tell you all now, no sugarcoating and absolutely no chill when I say it, but I despise this show. It sucks. It's awful. This is not Thomas. This is literally Chuggington on a big dose of crack. I hate the way the characters look. I hate most of the voices, apart from maybe Gordon, since I know that's Neil Crone, but I can't stand the others. The gestures they make with their heads, their bodies, their wheels. It's all literal eye cancer. I'll tell you what, when I watched A Thomas Promise for a rant review I tried to make a long while back, that damn song, I'm Gonna Chug, or whatever the hell it was, oh, it was so annoying. All I could think was, yeah, I'm gonna chug you all right off a freaking cliff. Now I'll say this, I was way more past done as soon as I saw Percy dangling off the tracks. I don't know what episode this was, I don't care to know what it was, but that was the final straw. I want nothing to do with this garbage show. Now, just because I don't like it, I'm not gonna bash anyone who somehow gets whatever pleasure from this show. Again, have fun with your bad self. You do you. But do me a solid and leave me out of it. Okay, here's our first question from Wildcat Studios. What are your favorite moments from Irwin Media that you found hilarious? Oh god, there's too many to name, honestly. Yeah, me and my colleagues have done a lot of silly things on our Irwin Media channel that have made us pretty much roll on the floor till our sides are hurting us. I'd be sitting here for hours telling you all the moments I found funny, so I'll give you my very favorite one. Nothing to me will ever beat this moment.
Tag, hurry your ass up!
Move!
Come on!
Taking so long.
I'm a-coming. I'm up! Fuck! Alright, then next question. Favorite music genre? That is a tie between pop and country. I've been a fan of pop music since I was little as, say, I was in elementary school. I was listening to all kinds of pop artists, and it really kicked off when my sister officially got me into Michael Jackson all those years ago. Funny enough, I actually started becoming a fan, after he died. Kind of silly, right? With country music, on the other hand, that is something that's played everywhere in my family. We're all really big into this genre of music, and we listen to all the good ones. You got Luke Bryan, Brad Paisley, Florida Georgia Line, Darius Rucker, Blake Shelton. You've got tons of amazing artists. I'll listen to either one of these genres all day, every day. And their last question, have you ever tried different voice impressions besides from Thomas and Friends? Oh yeah, definitely. While I've done multiple Thomas impressions, as everybody knows, there were some miscellaneous ones that I did do, but it was just for fun. I did an impression of Digby from Theodore Tugboat, all the original Pokemon voices. I've done a few little voices from Tugs, and I even did a reel of the Jim Carrey Grinch. Since then, I've not really tackled any more voices, because I just didn't have the motivation to do them anymore. But, who knows, maybe I might actually get back into doing that. I just have to pick a voice I want to do. But yeah, those are the only impressions that I've done outside of the Thomas voices. And our next question comes from Justin Dubose. I believe I said that correct. What was your first Thomas tape or DVD you owned as a kid? Well, by the time we were collecting the DVDs, those were mainly all my brothers. So I can't really tell you, what was the first one, because we just bought so many at the same time. However, I can tell you, my first tape that I got when I was 3, close to 4, was Thomas Persia and the Dragon. A pretty good one to start off with. The Season 3 tapes were the ones I had the most of before I did anything with 1, 2, or 4. So now you see why I'm such a Season 3 nut. Granted, Thomas Percy and the Dragon is not my very favorite tape from the Season 3, but I still really like it. And their next question, who is your favorite Theodore Tugboat character? Why, it's the boy himself, of course. Truthfully, I have loads of favorite characters from the show, but Theodore stands out to me more because I see a lot of myself in his character. Feelings, insecurities, everything Theodore and I have a lot in common with. So that is exactly why he is my favorite of the show. And their last question, did you own various Thomas and Theodore toys as a kid? Oh, yes. For Thomas, I had most of the Ertles and wooden railway trains. We did have a few Tomy ones, but it wasn't a lot. Sadly, though, all the wooden railways I had were passed down to my brother, and they all got ruined with either broken parts or paint chips. I have some of my remaining Ertles from childhood, but they're not in the best condition. And as far as the Tomy trains, they were all given to other family members. So, yeah, my family went through quite the number of Thomas toys. But in terms of, let's say, the Theodore toys, it was a pretty small amount. I basically had most of the Ertles. I had Ertl Theodore, Hank, Foduk, George, and Emily, with a couple of the side characters. And I remember I had Shelburne, Northumberland, and Rebecca. I didn't have Carla or Constance, because at the time, I didn't even know they existed. We did have one Ertl bath toy. It was the rare Pugwash. That wasn't necessarily mine, though. That was my sister's. I don't even know where the hell that original one ended up. Probably got thrown away, I don't know. And the only other toys that I remember I had, and these were my 2 favorite Ertl toys, it was the Changing Face Theodore and Hank. And I know those ended up getting donated to a children's hospital, while actually the other Ertls, that I had of the diecast models. Funny enough, the only ones that I know that survived those were my childhood doubles of Emily and Fodak, and I still currently have those. But the other ones, like Hank, Theodore, George, they mysteriously disappeared. I lost my original Shelburne. I believe my Rebecca was also lost. And I lost my Earl Northumberland because my sister, back when we were kids, kind of threw it in our pool back when I was like 5, 6, I guess, something like that. But yeah, she threw it in our pool, and the chlorine basically wiped the paint off of my Northumberland, so needless to say, I was pissed. But yeah, those were the toys that I had for both Thomas and Theodore when I was younger. Okay, here's our next question from Trainboy17. How would you rewrite Big World Big Adventures and make it not suck? Oh, well, compared to something like Misty Island, let's say, for example, this is on a whole new scale. Me personally, to start things off, you get rid of Ace, because fuck Ace. He served literally no purpose other than putting ideas into Thomas's head, and also, to some degree, made Thomas come off as a jerk to Nia. That's another thing you rewrite. Thomas's attitude. Enough of this BS with him coming off as a dick to any newbie character. Like, enough. That's such an old and dried up characteristic of his, and that's pretty unacceptable at this point. Also, let's write the places he visits, not so damn stereotypical like what they did for America, for example. So now, all this into perspective, let's pretend you make this movie like another quote-unquote anniversary kind of movie. Say Thomas gets another reward for working harder than anyone else, and SDH tells him he can have anything in the world he wants. And that's the whole idea where he gets, like, he's wanted to travel the world for the very first time. He doesn't just bring up the idea and then gallivants off without saying anything. No. So say he does this and arrives in Kenya, where he does meet Nia. They work together for a little while, and then when he's getting ready to go and visit wherever else, Nia tags along on the trip, and she tells him, yeah, I want to travel the world too. So they go to the same places like they do in the original cut, but this time they're actually learning more about where they are, which also gives us, as the audience, to do the exact same. Then let's say after a little while, Thomas starts to feel homesick, realizes this whole hype about traveling the world wasn't really as cracked up as he thought, and then finally decides he's ready to actually go home. And then you could kind of throw that one in here that this is when he discovers that Nia decides she wants to go back home with him, because then she tells him, oh yeah, I don't have a home to go back to. And bada bing, they get back to Sodor, new engine on the railway, the end. Now this is how I would personally rewrite Blubba. Much more straightforward compared to what we have now. And their next question, favorite British or American steam locomotive? Sad to say, but I don't have a favorite, because I don't really research certain engines. I don't look anything up on them. No, none of that. That's just one thing that never really interested me, so I can't really give you a proper answer for that. Sorry. And their last question, favorite shows from Cartoon Network, Disney XD, YouTube, etc. Well, I don't watch too many shows on YouTube per se, but ones from like Cartoon Network, for example. I like Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Johnny Bravo, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Mucha Lucha, obviously Pokemon, because that's where I saw it first. That's just a small handful of shows that I watched when I was much, much younger off of this station. As for Disney XD, I don't watch too many shows off of that channel either, apart from maybe 2. Phineas and Ferb and Gravity Falls. Phineas and Ferb I've been watching since I was in early high school, and I'm only a new developed fan of Gravity Falls for about a year or so. That's thanks to my sister, and I absolutely love it. So that should kind of give you an idea of what I'm really into. Alright, our next question from Eric the Train Fan 148. What is your favorite Pixar movie? That's an easy one, because most people know that I'm huge into NASCAR. I think you all know where this is going. My favorite Pixar movie is Cars. Now, I had no idea beforehand that some of the actual racers would be in this movie, and when I first saw Strip Weathers in the original Richard Petty design, naturally, I freaked. And then you've got characters such as Daryl Cartrip, Daryl Waltrip, Strip Weathers, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the original Ain't design. The list goes on. And it continues with the other two movies. You've got Jeff Gordon playing Jeff Corvette. Two other guys that I know. I know Chase Elliott, I believe was in the third one. And I believe, so was Ryan Blaney. I know there was a couple of others. I just can't name them off the top of my head. But yeah, again, naturally, I kind of freaked a little. Also, besides that aspect, the other characters of the movie are all really cool. I like Lightning McQueen, Mater's hysterical, I love Doc Hudson, Sally's awesome, and the whole rest of the gang. This movie is just amazing. I'd say it's definitely one of Pixar's best films. And their next question, who is your favorite Tugs character? Well, as I've said a gazillion times, my two favorite Tugs characters are 10 Cents and Sunshine. Their dynamic is just as unique as, say, Theodore and Hanks. And normally I would squeeze Thomas and Percy somewhere in here, but I'm a little skeptical about that dynamic, so take them out of the mix. But anyways, when it comes to 10 Cents and Sunshine, how can you hate them? Both are hard workers, they stand for no nonsense, both have their silly moments here and there. I could sit here just babbling on for hours about why I love them, but those two are my favorite characters of the show, without a doubt. And their last question, have you ever been to any big cities in America like New York or Chicago? Well, not just New York, but I can tell you some of the trips I've taken throughout some points in my life. So I've been to New York one time previously for a Luke Bryan concert, and that was however many years ago between me, my mom, and my sister. And about 2 years ago, I went to Brooklyn in September for a Stranger Things experience, again with my mom and sister. Back in November last year, as I mentioned before, one of my best friends, Matt, Nostalgia Dude 1998, who spent Thanksgiving with me and my family, he, me, my mom, my sister, her boyfriend, we all went to New York so that he could see the city for himself. We walked through Central Park, went to some of the shops, ate over at Bubba Gump's, and that whole trip was so much fun. Then after Thanksgiving, us two, plus my parents and brother, we all went down to New Jersey for an exhibition with all things Thomas and Shining Time Station, and that was pretty cool. You could count this if you wanted to. I've been to Pennsylvania twice. Once back when I was 4 with my parents, aunt, uncle, and cousins. We went to Strasburg, where I caught a day out with Thomas, but we weren't there for that, basically. And that kind of sucked. And the other time, I don't remember what year it was. My family stayed with the same aunt, uncle, and cousins for about a week or so. It was just a little family vacation. So, yeah, not a lot, but those are some of the trips that I've been on. And here's our first question from Mr. Sir TV Archives. Do you like trains? Well, I mean, I like some trains, but I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm a fanatic about trains. You know those people that go train spotting or whatever you call it? I just don't do that kind of stuff. Again, it's just a hobby that's not really my cup of tea. Again, I like trains, I do. But I'm not that crazy about them. And their second question, were you traumatized by the return of the Slab episode from Courage the Cowardly Dog? I'm not even sure what that episode is, to be perfectly honest with you. I technically have not seen all the episodes of Courage, as that was just another show that I just kind of drifted away from. Partially was because my mom, for whatever reason, didn't really like me and my sister watching that. I thought it was just a harmless cartoon, but she never liked when we watched it. But who knows, maybe one of these days I might watch it again, and I'll be sure to keep a lookout for that episode. And their next question, what is your opinion on Tale of the Brave? Well, just like I said about Sodor's Legend, I'm not going to spoil too much of my opinions on it, but I'll say this. Tale of the Brave is a heart grabber, and a much better Percy story than Day of the Diesels. Keep that in mind. And here's our first question from James Lister, the Reimu Hakurai fan.
Ain't that a mouthful of molasses?
Favorite Sonic character? Oh, that's an easy one. My favorite is Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, I never knew anything about Shadow until I played the Olympic Games Wii game, and I was curious because he looked like Sonic, but all black. And I took a likeness to him pretty quickly, and every time I would play that game, I would play as him in every single event. And right around that time, that's when I started watching Sonic X, and his backstory with Maria and how he was created really interested me. Even though it's milked like hell on 4Kids, that's when I did my own little research, and I discovered more inside with what happened on Space Colony Arc. And I'll say, it's pretty dark and sad. And all the power that Shadow can harness, even with the Chaos Emeralds and the whole shebang,
It is just badass.
that's why Shadow is my favorite. He's such a cool character. Here's their next question. How did you get your hands on the Canadian Theodore Tugboat tapes? Well, that's a funny story, actually. I never even knew that these tapes even existed until I saw other YouTubers had found some of them. I was told by quite a few people that they were really hard to find, and they were. I started off with Theodore and the Treasure Team when I found it on eBay, I want to say maybe 2014, if not 2015. The same years or later, I think, on eBay again, I found Theodore's Whistle, and not a day later, a 3-tape lot came up with Theodore to the Rescue, Big Adventure, and Underwater Mysteries. I want to say this was around 2016, roughly. I ended up finding Emily Goes Overboard, again on eBay, and then Theodore and the Harbor Crane I found on Amazon, which is going to sound crazy, but because this one is mega rare and you don't see it ever come up for sale, I took the liberty and, yeah, I spent $100 on it. Call me crazy. Then again, roughly that summer of either 16 or 2017, after I came back from a concert, I found on eBay again, Hank and the Nightlight. And lastly, it did take a bit longer to get, but a friend of mine hooked me up with a copy of Whale of a Tug after we settled on a trade a year right before COVID happened. And that is how I got all the Canadian tapes in my possession. It was a hell of a long process, but oh so worth it in the end. And speaking of, with their final question, what is your favorite Theodore Tugboat VHS? I hate to do this to you and the rest, but you'll get your answer when I do my top 10 VHS list. Just bear with me and be patient. And here's our next question from Emily and Henry. What's your least favorite episode of Theodore Tugboat Seasons 1, 2, and 3? Oh, what? No love for Seasons 4 and 5? Lamau? Yeah, same deal. I will get around to doing that video when I've got a little more time on my hands, because if I try to do it now, we're going to be sitting here for a very long time. Just bear with me. It will come. Next question. When Gina was introduced in The Great Race in Season 23, what were your thoughts on her? I had no thoughts on her even when she was introduced in The Great Race, because we knew nothing about her and the other international characters. When we saw her in Season 23, all I can say is, bitch got some sass on her,
Thomas?
Shut the fuck up!
but that's really it. It's very hard to judge a character when they have either minor or cameo roles or no episodes dedicated just to them, so we can get to know more about these characters. And that's one of the major problems with Blubba. They neglected these characters so badly, and Gina, unfortunately, is one of them. And their last question, if you've seen Lightyear, what do you think of it? I have not seen Lightyear, and I really don't have any intention on seeing it. I heard a lot of people had kind of mixed feelings about it, and after I saw the trailer, I just wasn't all that interested, and I don't think I'm going to be watching it anytime soon. And here is one of our last questions from Harry Morris. Are there any Thomas episodes from seasons 1 to 6 besides A Bad Day for Harold that you would give a 0 out of 10? I do not know, honestly. I mean, you know why I don't like A Bad Day for Harold, but I don't think other episodes are that bad enough to deserve a 0. Maybe close, but not an automatic. Now, say you threw in season 7, maybe a few hit era episodes, definitely Nitrogen and Blubba, that's a whole different ballgame where you could throw in multiple zeros. But that is a topic for another day. And their second question, have you ever thought about doing a video of top favorite Thomas characters? Well, something along that line, per se. I want to talk about certain Thomas characters and just what exactly makes them my favorite. I would have loved to work on these this year, but as you know, I'm completely swamped with so many other projects. But hopefully sometime around maybe next year, I'll be able to work on these. And our final question, what are your thoughts on the Thomas movies? Again, that is one of the videos I originally planned on doing this year, but I've noticed Mattel has been blocking Thomas videos, so I need to be very careful if and when I'm editing that particular video. I do not know when this video will be out per se, because I need to finish a lot more before I worry about ranking 14 different Thomas movies. It will not be out anytime soon, I know that. I'm still gonna try, but no guaranteed promises.